Thank you very much for keeping it here on NBS Breakfast Meeting with myself, Jackie Mutesi. The government of Uganda, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, as you've just seen in our bumper, recently launched a BPO policy. Now the policy sets out, I beg your pardon, to leverage the potential that the business processing outsourcing industry, I beg your pardon, the BPO industry, looking to leverage the ability to leverage the potential of the BPO industry to drive economic growth here in Uganda. With our young population, young and educated, with our strategic location, it is no wonder, and it is very little wonder, that the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance has come up with this policy. But to understand what BPO, something I'm even struggling to say, is, we have a few experts in the studio with myself, and joining us from my right is Mr. Rogers Karebi. He is the chairman of the Business Processing Outsource from the BPO Association. A very good morning to you, Mr. Karebi.
Yes, good morning, Jackie. BPO Association.
Please tell us what Business Process Outsourcing Association is.
Business Process Outsourcing Association, like the title says, is an association of private sector players, companies, that have come together to advocate to grow the sector. And the association has been in existence since 2010. We're about now 12 years. Is that correct? Yes, 12 years. And we've done quite a lot. We've worked with quite a number of different, both government, NGOs. But we focus mainly on working with government to see how we can grow the sector in Uganda.
To see how we can grow the sector.
Yes.
Before I even ask you what BPO is, let me introduce the rest of my guests in studio. I have Dr. Diana Nandagirian-Tamu. She is the Director of Entrepreneurship at the Innovation and Incubation Center at Makerere University Business School. A very good morning and pleasure to have you in the studio, Dr. Diana.
Good morning, Jackie. I'm very happy to join you this morning to discuss the BPO sector in Uganda.
Absolutely. And finally, my guest is Hareesh Sahadevan. He is the founder and CEO of Vigo Technologies Africa and BPO Services. Very good to have you this morning.
Thank you very much. Very good morning.
Thank you very much. Now, before we start, what is BPO? Because I don't know. And I'll start with you, Mr. Rogers. What is BPO?
I'll try my level best to use very simple words for all of us to understand, but BPO is actually the contracting of a third-party service provider to take on a business process that would otherwise have been conducted internally. It helps in saving your resources, but most importantly, it helps you to focus on your core activities, because you're assuming that the company that you're outsourcing to or contracting is resourced and experienced in doing the activity that you've contracted them to take on.
You've contracted them to do. Mr. Karebi, just so I can understand, can you give me an example of a BPO?
The services are quite many, but I'll try to focus more on the IT-enabled services. For example, a company may decide to outsource its customer care department, which in this case, we're talking about a call center where a good number of us operate. And we make phone calls and receive phone calls on behalf of the client that contracted us. And we also use other services like telemarketing. We can market for the client. We can conduct surveys, telephone-based surveys. But there are also many others, including social media. There are companies that outsource their handling their social media. There are companies that contract handling development of software. The range is quite big.
The range is huge. And I'll ask you, Dr. Diana, what is the meaning of BPO?
Rogers said it well, and again, organizations exist to achieve specific goals, and in order for them to do that, they have to undertake different processes. But what Rogers made very clear is that some of those processes are not core to enable the achievement of those goals. So it is always important for this organization to understand in the different processes what is core, what is non-core. So with business process outsourcing, you contract out, you get a third party, an external service provider who is possibly very well, experienced. They have the skills, the expertise, they have the resources, and then so that you can focus on what is more important. And normally, this will allow you to save the time. You'll be more efficient. You focus on what is more important. And there are quite a number of examples here in Uganda. I just want to give an example. From Makerere University Business School, we are a university, we have access to talent, fresh talent. So what we have been doing since 2005 is to find this fresh talent and recruit them and manage them on behalf of certain organizations so they can focus on what is more important. We've done this for the telecom sector and banking.
For the telecom sector and the banking. And does every business need to outsource their processing?
No, not exactly. A business needs to understand what brings the outsourcing is an understanding of your goals, okay, and the resources that you have. If you have the resources, if you have the expertise, maybe you don't even have to outsource that process. So, but for some organizations where the services, skills are very specialized and you do not have them, and maybe you have to spend a lot of money training people, you'd rather outsource that to somebody who already has the people, they have the skills, they have the experience, they're going to do it better than you, because it's going to be an uphill task for you to focus on that, and yet you have something core that you must deliver to your customers. So you really want to look at that. Sometimes you also want to look at, do you want to save costs? Okay, so if you really feel that you want to save the costs, cut the costs down, then you'd rather outsource that function, that process to somebody that is going to do it better than you. So it is always something that an organization has to think about. Sometimes you may not even have to outsource, because some organizations are dealing with sensitive data, sensitive customer information, and you don't want to give it out to somebody else to manage it for you. And sometimes if you have to do that, then you really have to accompany that with specific agreements with the company that is taking that over. So not every organization should outsource, but we are arguing in promoting the BPO sector in Uganda. We're saying maybe we are doing things that are not core, that we could actually outsource, give somebody else to do better than we do, so that you can actually focus on serving your customers, on delivering quality services. But in the process of outsourcing, you're also giving opportunity to young people, our young people that are finishing university. So, yeah.
I've understood. This is my understanding of BPO. I'm looking at my phone and it says at the back, designed by Apple in California and assembled in China. That means this company, to increase their profits, in my understanding, did the work in the US and sent out all of these parts to be assembled, creating employment in China. Would that be a clear example of BPO?
Not only the cost, efficiency,
Inefficiency.
There should be some reason why they outsource to China, because they may be having some efficient workforce for specific tasks. So that can be another reason why they outsource.
Absolutely. And Hareesh, as the founder and CEO of Envigo Technologies and BPO Services, how can we encourage more companies to come to Uganda and source and outsource basically their processes?
Okay, so basically for this, what we have to do is to create more awareness about the benefits of outsourcing, and also incentive. There should be a lot of incentive and support programs, and also training sessions to have a specially skilled workforce. Thanks to Diana, she's already doing it. So other BPOs can leverage from this beautiful task which Diana is already doing. And more importantly, a business-friendly environment where we have right policies and right regulations to govern. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a BPO company owner working here in Uganda?
Yeah, initially, it was a little bit of a challenge when I started in 2018, because when we go to any of the Ugandan companies to asking for outsourcing, so the main question what we get from is like, this is something our reception staff or my other admin staff do. So they don't understand the value of having some KPIs to set, some skills to measure their productivity. So that was a little bit of challenge to explain to the companies in Uganda, but I think currently things are changing. There is a potential for Uganda which the entire world is looking at. We also showcased our capability outside Uganda as well. So things will change. With the time, things will change.
With time, things will change. We've already started changing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Dr. Diana, do you think Uganda has strategically positioned itself as a BPO hub?
Well, yes, I should say yes. And first of all, I must also say that I'm a member of the Business Process Outsourcing and Innovation Council under the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. And the government of Uganda has been proactive. The government has identified the BPO sector with the potential to create jobs for our young people. The National Labour Force Survey of 2021 established the youth unemployment rate at 17%. 74% of our young people are below the age of at 30 years and below. So the government has really considered BPO as a sector that is likely to unlock these unemployment opportunities. And indeed, there's been effort to provide an enabling environment for BPO private companies to come into place, to establish themselves and provide services. And I'm happy to mention that Uganda, in positioning itself, we find that the Ugandan labor costs are quite lower compared to other countries. If you go to the US, UK, Australia, and these other companies, and these are countries where these services are provided, the labor costs are very, very high. And when you come to Uganda, you realize that it's not that costly to get our young people to provide services in a BPO company. I'm also happy to mention that a number of Ugandans are proficient, relatively proficient in English, and most of these companies that outsource these processes are dealing with clients that speak English, so Ugandans can speak English well. So in that way, I can say that as a country, we have the opportunity. Then I'm also happy to mention that the government has and other players have invested quite something in promoting ICT and digitization. The National Labour Force Survey, again, of 2021 established that persons of 10 years and above, at least 50% of persons 10 years and above in Uganda had access to a phone, a mobile phone, and those that were using internet were not many, but we also have our universities and other higher educational institutions promoting ICT skills. So I can say again that we have the ICT skills. Our young people are very passionate, and in that way, I can say that we are able to position ourselves as a preferred destination. We have infrastructure. Government has made effort to put in place infrastructure, ICT and innovation hubs. Science parks are in the process of being established. I know that government is committed, government is passionate about this, but of course we still have some things to put right. For example, whereas our young people have the ICT skills, they need to be much more prepared for the BPO sector. I know that he will tell you, and Rogers will tell you, that when they graduate, they still need they need some kind of fine-tuning, polishing, some kind of specialized training. For example, in the telecom sector, you realize that they require these young people to have some specific skills. Can they speak on the phone? Can they handle queries? Can they solve problems? if you go to the health sector, if you go to hospitality, those that need IT, software development. So when these young people finish, we still need to do some work with them. We need to make them work ready. And in that case, I've seen organizations that have initiated work readiness programs, MTN Uganda, Private Sector Foundation and Enable. So we need to still train our young people. We also need to provide the infrastructure. Internet, access to internet. I know that the Minister of ICT and National Guidance has directed that internet costs are brought down. So we still need some work to do about it, but we also need to market Uganda as the preferred BPO destination. Whereas we have all these in place, we still need the clients to know that we are here to provide these services.
Absolutely. Well, we do need to market Uganda as a hub for BPO. I believe the government needs to also create an enabling environment. And as a player in that sector, Hareesh, do you believe the government has created an enabling environment for your business to thrive?
Yes, definitely. And just recently, we also have a BPO policy in place. We never had a BPO policy, so that is also out. And other support, government is also giving a lot of support in terms of skill sets, reliable connectivity. Like Diana said, we have a discounted price for BPO companies, very discounted price from the government, and very stable connectivity. And also thanks to the national backbone, we have now connectivity outside, better connectivity outside Kampala, so we can get further cheaper workforce and give employment to people not only in Kampala, outside Kampala. And also we also need to understand that it's not about government doing everything. We also have some effort to be done. That is where BPO Council come in place. We come together, we have a common voice to showcase our capability and position Uganda as the destination. And we did it last year. We represented Uganda at the expo, where people were not aware. People only thought that Nigeria is the only country in Africa, or South Africa is the only country in Africa where they can outsource BPO, outsource their process. So now they are aware that Uganda is also another destination. So now we have to keep improving and bring in more business.
Absolutely. This is quite exciting because, as you said, Dr. Diana, there's plenty of young, educated Ugandans and people leaving university. I know there's a Victoria University actually started a career readiness employability program. But I'm just imagining, if I was a student, I've done 4 years of, let's say, economics at the university. I'm leaving, I've done my employability readiness program. My talent is, let's say, to speak, and I would like to apply for a job in one of these companies. Is this something that is possible?
Yes, it is possible, but there's still a gap. The young people do not have an idea where these opportunities are. I see them as they complete, they're anxious, where will I find a job? And they start dropping their applications in different organizations. But part of what we are doing at the Business Process Outsourcing and Innovation Council is to be able to bring the different players together, the private sector, academia, government, and be able to see ways how we can work together, support young people when they are still at university, provide this information to them, find the fresh talent where the young people, right now it is not very easy for them. I mean, you testify that the people that come to apply for jobs in your institutions simply come. For us at MOOPS, we have been able to go to different universities all over the country because we are recruiting for a telecom company. So we have to go and share information about the available opportunities. And this is because we also have study campuses in Mbale, in Jinja, in Arua, and in Barara, and here in Kampala. But if we don't do that, then the young people will just not know that these opportunities are available. So what needs to be done is to be able to share information about where these opportunities are, and that's part of the effort that we're working on at the council.
Excellent. Now, as the BPO Council, you're also working with the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance.
Yes.
I believe you're in the process of drafting a policy.
Yes.
Can you shed more light on how this will increase, let's say, export, how this will increase trade?
Oh yes, first of all, This policy is meant to create an enabling environment. This doesn't mean that government has done nothing in the past to promote BPO. There are a number of policies in existence. For example, policies to do with data protection and security, access to internet, different policies that allow people to start a BPO business. However, these policies did not specifically target the BPO kind of establishment, whereas they support that kind of organization to be started, to run. The policy is now more deliberate at promoting the business process outsourcing kind of establishment or company or business. So how does the policy help? It provides an enabling environment because the policy looks at how costs can be brought down. How can costs be brought down? A good tax regime so that companies that are starting these establishments find it easy, access to internet, access to infrastructure, and that means that we attract clients from abroad. We have clients from the US, we have clients from the UK to establish BPO centers that will provide employment to our young people. But in the meantime, it would also mean that we are exporting our services abroad and we are earning foreign exchange, which also has implications to our balance of trade. So it also means that of course, we promote exports that way, but we also have our young people acquire skills. These companies train them. For example, when we recruit our young people and send them to where we do, those companies give them training. So at the end of the day, we have a better skilled workforce, and then we have infrastructure developing, emerging, because that also means that those companies are going to establish infrastructure. So it's not only exports. Indeed, the policy is providing an enabling environment to promote exports, but also we see development happening, different things happening around us because these companies have been able to come here in Uganda and because we've been able to export our services abroad.
I see. Mr. Karibi, I want to come to you. As the chairman of the BPO Association, are there any risks involved that we should be aware of as we pursue BPO in Uganda?
Yes, there's quite a number of risks, and we need to look at it from the broader perspective in terms of the service providers, but also the buyers themselves. Now, I think it is also important at this time to add on to what Dr. Diana talked about. There are certain aspects that will attract, for example, a buyer to come to Uganda. Now, the risks that may be involved in some cases, like we had one of our neighboring countries had an issue where there were strikes and some buyers actually left as a result. But you'll appreciate that we've had peace for quite some time. And the aspect of inconsistency in terms of peace and stability can cause a very big risk in terms of especially attracting buyers. But the other risks that may be involved are technological, in the sense that in the past, by the way, we had issues to do with our internet. It was very bad. When I joined the sector, that was quite a number of years back, when I just come back, we're actually using satellite internet. And it was very expensive, unreliable, but also inaccessible. And that, as a result, we lost some business because of that. With the very little effort that we're putting in to attract the buyers, we lost business. And there was a lot of lack of trust at the time. And because now it is picking up again, we have to restart the whole effort from scratch.
I understand.
But yes, the risks are high. And you see, this business of BPO is two-pronged. There's the machine bit, and there's also the human resource. And any of those two can cause a big risk. Now, when you have, for example, the human resource that is not well-trained, it could cause a very big risk. There's something called accent neutralization training, whereby you train somebody to speak in an accent of the target market.
Wow.
Somebody selling a service to Australia will speak differently from somebody selling a service to the UK. And I think my colleague will agree with me on that bit.
Hareesh, can you tell us more about that? Because that's something I didn't know about, Mr. Karebi, that you can actually learn how to speak for a target audience. I wish that's something I can learn for my Ugandan audience.
You can.
Hareesh, Mr. Karebi is talking about innovation and mindset change as a prerequisite if the BPO sector is going to develop and thrive here in Uganda. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think for that, it's very crucial for us to foster a culture of openness and creativity. Okay, and I think we should have a lot of incubation centers where people can do their trials, like Mr. Karebi said. Like in some of the countries, there will be a lot of language barriers. So definitely, you will only know once you start getting into the process. So there should be this environment created where they can do their research, do their trials. If they find it success, they evolve. If they see them evolve, if there is a failure, they learn from the mistakes. Okay, so what I would suggest as a sustainable innovation is to find common man's problem and find a solution for it. Yes.
Common man's problem and find a solution for it.
Yeah.
A common man's problem is accent neutralization, actually, Hareesh.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us about that in terms of training? Because I'm sure my audience is wondering, I speak like this, I speak like a Ugandan.
Yeah.
How will somebody in the UK, for example, if I was working for a call center here in Uganda for a business that is in the UK, like the example Mr. Karebi gave, how will the people understand me? So is this services that you offer?
Yeah, so just to give one basic example, so if someone in the West tell you about that, okay, I need my things in black and white, will be like shocked. What does he mean by black and white? Is it a TV? What he's talking about? No, it's black and white. It's about he needs something in writing. Yeah. So that there is a difference in different countries. Yeah. So especially the slang what we use and the way we communicate. But the good thing is like our accent is neutral. We are very polite compared to Western countries.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't get aggressive on the phone, or we don't get start fighting over the phone. So we can just mold it and be ready for the Western world.
For the Western world. That is exciting. Dr. Diana, how does this tie into our country's vision for 2040?
Well, first, I really want to say that this ties very, very well with Vision 2040, which really contains the aspirations of the country and a strategic direction in order to transform our people, in order to socially and economically transform our country. The Vision 2040 is aiming at economically transforming the country through industrialization, value addition, modernizing agriculture, creating jobs, and then social transformation, improving the quality of life of our people, jobs, earning income, good standards of living, development of infrastructure in order to support production and promote growth, and then of course good governance. So the BPO efforts, which are being pioneered by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, speak directly to those aspirations. Because if we have BPO companies coming to establish themselves here, or we have companies, domestic companies selling services abroad, we have our young people accessing jobs, finding jobs, earning incomes, improving their lives, and also contributing to the country's agenda, growth agenda. Then when we talk about infrastructure, which is a key focus of the Vision 2040, the establishment of the BPO sector, the promotion of the BPO sector allows for the development of infrastructure. I know Rogers and Amit will tell you that infrastructure development is very critical for the provision of BPO services. You need different types of infrastructure, and if we have the BPO sector promoted, then we have this infrastructure that allows people to provide services. But we should also know that when the BPO infrastructure is put in place, it also allows for the establishment of additional complementing, supporting infrastructure. So again, that speaks very well to the Vision 2040. And also BPO services are ICT enabled. The providers are using ICT to provide, to sell a service. And in our Vision 2040, government is focusing on providing ICT as a key driver of growth. So to me and as a council, we believe that if the sector is promoted under the policy, the policy which is still in draft form, we'll see vision. We see ourselves getting closer to that vision.
Getting closer to the
Yes,
vision,
yes.
absolutely. And there is a BPO policy that is coming up, a BPO conference, I beg your pardon, that is coming up. Mr. Karebi, can you tell us a bit more about what we are hoping to achieve with this conference?
Thank you very much. We have a planned BPO conference, international conference, which will be in September. It is an initiative between the association, the council, we have the National IT Authority, we have Export Promotion Board, we have Private Sector Foundation. But the objective really is more to do with sensitization. And this sensitization is cross-cutting from domestic to international. But at the same time, also trying to see how we can benchmark against what other leading countries have done. We have invited a big team from India. India has one of the biggest leading private sector associations for BPO in the world. It is NASSCOM. NASSCOM is it's a short for national. It's a long acronym, but it is the biggest association in the world. But we've invited key stakeholders, key companies from NASSCOM to come and give us some snippets of how they led to the growth of the sector in India. We also have a team that is coming in from Bangladesh. Bangladesh is one of the fastest growing BPO destinations in the world today. And through one of the projects, which was manned by the International Trade Center, we visited Bangladesh. That was about 5-10 years ago. And we established a partnership. But we also hope that they can join us during that conference to also give us the experiences. Because as a sector that is trying to get into a very competitive world, we need to benchmark against the global
The top
leaders.
players.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We have a team coming in from Kenya. We have a team coming in from South Africa. Currently, South Africa, by the way, amazingly, is the fastest growing BPO sector in Africa. And they've done quite a lot in terms of infrastructure. They've done quite a lot in terms of growing the domestic demand for BPO services. And it is only right that we also try and benchmark against them.
Mr. Karebi, how can we increase local demand for BPO here in Uganda?
I can summarize it as sensitization,
Absolutely.
most importantly. And I can tell you from my experience in the last 14-15 years that I've been around, we've had people who have walked in and they've clearly told us that they did not know that Uganda had private call centers. And we've gone on to sign with them. So that means that there are so many other companies out there that would want our service, but they do not know about us. So we are working very closely with the BPO Council and quite a number of other stakeholders to see how we can come up with a program to sensitize the local buyers.
To sensitize the local buyers.
Yeah, that's
This
the plan.
conference in September, what would you tell a Ugandan who's looking to attend?
Number one, we need to put the message out there about what we want to achieve, because most importantly, the whole aspect about outsourcing is, number one, growing demand for services, but secondly, job creation, investments, we want to attract investments, and also increase revenue. Now, the person who would want to attend, want to tell them about how we can create jobs, especially for the youth, how we can attract investments into the country. And before this one passes, as a result of the efforts that we've been doing in the last few years, we recently attracted one of the biggest companies in the world to come and invest here. This company is called Helpware. It's an international company. And I think it is the 17th biggest BPO company in the world. And they've set up shop here, but we want many more.
And we want many more.
Yes.
In your closing remarks, Hareesh, what can you tell us about the future of BPO here in Uganda?
The future is very bright, definitely with the support from the government and the BPO Council and the BPO Association. We definitely can reach at least number 1 or number 2 in Africa first, and then go for number 4 or 5 in the next coming 5 years.
Thank you very much. We'll continue this conversation